right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here. And of course, I'm joined as always with my co hosts, Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And guys, we've got another exciting episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast where we're previewing and deep diving into the UAB football defense and special teams today. But before we get started, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure that you hit that follow or subscribe button and like button as well at Blazer Pod. So if you're listening to us on the audio side, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, there will be a link in the show description to go ahead and click on YouTube and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. But this episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast is brought to you by Cahaba Brewing Company. And today we're going to spotlight the Oka Uba IPA, which is one of my favorite IPAs ever. It's a West Coast style, really good. If you see me at a watch party, more than 99% of the time I'm going to have an Oka Uba IPA. It's solid. Very solid beer. So thank you again to Cahaba for sponsoring the Blazer Victory Podcast. And also keep in mind, we are just 1 month away from our first watch party of the football season, September 14th, as UAB travels up to Fayetteville, Arkansas to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. There will be a link in this show description to have more details on that watch party event. But do us a favor. If you're interested, UAB fans, if you're interested in that watch party, go ahead and say that you're interested on the Facebook event page, just to let us know, ahead of time. But can't wait to see everybody down at Cahaba Brewing Company. But there's always something going on in the tap room. This Saturday they have an event. So definitely, if you ever have a chance to go down to the tap room, let them know that you heard about Cahaba Brewing Company on the Blazer Victory Podcast. That does us a solid. But seriously, thank you again to Cahaba for sponsoring this podcast for a second season. But guys, I've gotten a few text messages in DMs saying, John, we know what we expect out of the UAB offense, but this is the show that everybody, or at least have told me that they're wanting to tune in just to see, is the UAB football 2024 defense, can it be improved from last year? And Darian, both you and I have been out there to the facility. We see the length, we see the athletic, at least more compared to last season. But can it translate to the field? And we're going to start deep diving with the defensive line previewing. And Darian, what can you expect out of this 2024 UAB football defensive line?
Improvement. When you talk about the defense overall this year, when I ask about, like the personality of the group, all I hear is the two words the most. I hear aggressive. I hear depth. We were neither aggressive or deep at all last year. Another word is it's just like you hear is length. As you already brought up, you see the length and you hear strength as well. How many times did we get on here and we talked about how we got pushed around on 4th and 1? So it was either on offense if we had a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 2 or something that we got hit for -2 yards. And on defense, if it was 4th and 2, we couldn't sustain the push. We couldn't get a push, and then it was a 5-yard gain or whatever. Like it happened every time. It seemed like. Well, I expect that to change a lot actually this year. We're a lot deeper. I mean, Jimmy, man, we got LD Cox. I showed y'all the picture of Iman Smalls the other day. Dude is freaking huge, for a redshirt freshman, and we saw his strength last year. We saw what McQuan Merriweather did last year. Again, there's going to be a substantial, just a natural leap from being a true freshman. They just came out of high school. Now they played a whole year of college ball, had a complete off season. They are going to be better. Like, that's just how it goes. Like, I can't tell you the difference when you get into a program, a real program versus high school. So you got the McQuan Merriweathers and Iman Smalls. Of course, you got Kevin Penn coming back. Like He was great last year. He's probably arguably the best defensive tackle we had last year. He comes back, and then we add LD Cox, and let me tell you, Ladarius Cox looked very good. You heard about him all spring. He's not a guy that came in late. He was here and there in the springtime, and when I saw him in the spring game, he popped off as like one of the best linemen. Very aggressive, very strong at the point of attack. And then we brought in DeMarcus Smith from Ole Miss, and then we also brought in Derek Shepard Jr. on the interior of that defensive line. And then we still have other redshirt freshman guys like Jonathan Allen on the roster. It's still improving, still getting better. It's all of these guys that I just named out. Those guys are mainly interior guys, right? We still have Joker Gill, who plays inside and out. And then I'm trying to separate the edge guys. I'm not really sure if like Emmanuel Waller is like, I know he plays defensive end. I don't know if that's like an edge. I don't know what group. I don't know what group I should put him in. They confused me with that. Like, they labeled Desmond Little and Kendall Johnson, and I'm like, I don't know what's the edge, but I guess I just stick with the interior guys for now. Just listen to all that depth. That's like 6-7 guys on the inside. On the inside, man, we had Fish, Tyreek Howard, Kevin Penn, and then we were depending on true freshmen last year, mind you. Fish, I think, was the only guy that remained healthy most of the season. Tyreek was in and out. Yeah. Kevin Penn was in and out. Emon Smalls played a little bit, and then he got hurt. We really just had Fish and McQuan Merriweather for like the whole season. Other than that, we weren't playing. We couldn't play anybody else on the inside. This year, I think we have a lot of depth and just better. Just listen to the guys that I named out and watch them play. It warms my heart. I think we're going to get some stuff, and we're going to get some interior push on pass rush. When you think about defensive tackles, you don't think about pass rush. Well, I think we're going to get some push up the middle this year. We're going to be able to bull rush guys back. So it's not going to be all on one defensive tackle this year. It's going to be on all of them. All of them can make plays, and they're going to create plays for the edge guys, I believe.
Yeah, and give credit to the staff about realizing that, we saw at media day and we saw through interviews, Trent Dilfer and the staff realized how bad the defense was last year. In fact, he said at media days, and we've addressed this on the pod too, that, I mean, there's going to be at least 9 new starters on this defense. But realizing the need for an immediate depth on the defensive line and other positions that we're going to get to on this defensive preview, but just realizing the rush that, hey, we need some guys in to impact to come in and impact immediately, and with the depth, like Darian just said. I mean, there were times last year, poor Fish, I mean, he was there a lot and getting pushed around. That he was a hell of a player and a hell of a leader for this team last year. But I mean, you just get tired, when the guys coming in or the guys behind you can't really contribute significantly right away. I mean, it just wears on you. But Jimmy, what are kind of your thoughts just about kind of the interior defensive line? But can you talk a little bit about Shepard coming from Cincinnati? I mean, I know we were super excited to get Shepard.
Yeah, that's the one thing that stands out right away is the additions that Darian had mentioned, including Derek Shepard Jr. And also at the same time, the guys that were playing this past season as true freshmen that were able to get film and were able to get that on the field experience. And that's going to add to that quality of depth at those positions. So they're still going to be competing for starting roles here in fall camp. But then when you start to look at the A's and the B's and the 1A's and 1B's, like, you're building much more competition and much more depth at those positions. So that's something that stands out. Derek Shepard in particular, we talked about him over the offseason. Of course, we were excited because he had like some other guys that come down from a P4 school. He had so many offers come out of high school. If memory serves me right, I was trying to look here. I believe he was the top defensive line recruit in the state of Ohio when he was coming out of high school. And he did touch the field this past season at Cincinnati. So he had 4 tackles. He played in 7 games, and that was during his redshirt freshman season. So I would still consider that getting on the field relatively early at a school in the Big 12. So that's a big deal for him to be able to come in and contribute, hopefully right away for this UAB defense. For me, we've seen other fans ask the question: is can UAB apply pressure? Can they get after the quarterback? So Darren had just mentioned about the defensive tackles getting bull rush and applying pressure in the pass game. But can UAB defense generate sacks in 2024? This past season, UAB defense was credited with 27 sacks. And you think about the return era in terms of getting after the quarterback, and just in comparison, you look at even Clark's first year in 2014, UAB defense credited with 34 sacks. In 2017 was his lowest when he was here at 19. But in 2018 and 2019, there was 43 team sacks each of those seasons. COVID year, there's only 21 in 9 games. In 2021, there was 31. So you look at the years in which UAB was able to not just apply pressure, but actually take the quarterback down. I think that UAB's got the pieces, both interior and on the edge to get after the quarterback this season. And that's going to hopefully, going to make things more difficult on the opposing team. And that's what we need to see this season.
Definitely.
Did you say we only had 18?
We had 27 team sacks this past year.
Wow, that's 43 to 27.
Yeah, 2018, 2019 were 43 each of those seasons. Even going back to 2014, and Clark's first year was 34. 2017 was only 19. That was obviously our first year back during the return. But we even had 21 team sacks in the COVID year in 9 games played. So that's certainly going to be something to look after this year.
Yeah, that tells a story, John. I just had to. That tells a big story right there.
It does. And Jimmy, mentioned the end pieces, Darian. I know you're really excited about some guys on the defensive end or at the edge. In fact, on our Twitter poll today that you guys can go to x.com/blazerpod, we talked about who's going to be the MVP of the UAB defense. And just for everybody's information, we were not able to include other as an option because Twitter only gives you 3 choices for polls unless you upgrade to their premium, and we ain't got that.
We don't have the money for that right now.
I was gonna say hey, we don't have that right now, but you mentioned that Emmanuel Waller, you were high on him, returning this year. Can you talk a little bit about Darian? Can you talk a little bit about Emmanuel Waller and also some other pieces that we have on the edge?
Yeah, and that was just a preference for me because it might be a little biased. I tend to talk to him a little bit more as a player, and I think he's a good person. But also, from what I seen during spring, when I saw him, he was the guy that just popped off on the edge. He popped off very much, and not just his play, but then I looked at his body transformation. He went from this true freshman, you come in with your true freshman body, you just kind of and then I remember just seeing him, I was like, oh, this dude looked like he done packed on 30 pounds of muscle. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, and it shows up in play. The leverage just seems stronger, more confident with what he want to do physically and mentally, right? Just seemed healed up from whatever knick-knacking injuries that he had plaguing him as well. He just looked like a total different guy, right? But then also, I'm hearing the same thing about Desmond Little, right? He had a year that was ho-hum to me. If it was a guy that was going to get a sack, it probably was him or Nakia Eason, right? That was our only 2 guys I felt like that could get a sack, right? But sometimes I feel like Desmond wasn't aggressive, and he didn't. He had all the tools, had the length and everything. He had the pedigree, came from LSU, was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. But now I'm hearing that he has tapped into that, what people thought he could be. He really is more consistent. Consistency is the thing. He's stronger. He's a lot stronger than what he was. So, and I was hearing the same thing about guys like Kendall Johnson. Kendall Johnson is probably the all-time bus team. When I say bus team, is the guy when you get off the bus and you like, holy, like, oh, this dude is huge. Well, he has all the tools, the length, the strength, and I'm hearing that he's putting it together. Then I hear about the one that was surprising to me to hear about on the edge was James Smear, right? We looked for him to play linebacker last year. We needed that, but he just wasn't ready, and it just wasn't coming natural to him. Well, then I know for a fact that's a guy that Trent loves. I've heard him mention him a couple times, just character and how he worked, and I'm just like, that's interesting. Like a guy that didn't play like at all, probably just special teams. And then Trent seems to, they said he has a high motor, high character, and he works really hard. I just think that linebacker position just wasn't fitting him. Well, I've been hearing from multiple people, like coming off the edge, they was like, hey man, this dude is good coming off the edge. Hey, like they had to put him in a position to like, just let him go. Just go, just do your thing. Stop all of the thinking, the scheme, and just try to make sure that it was slowing him down. They said on the edge, he just go and he's just a monster out there, and his burst is very, very good. And I'm like, I'm interested to see him in packages. I think last year we had guys that were good, but they played a tad bit out of position, like Michael Fairbanks, out of necessity. We didn't have Michael Fairbanks is more of a 3 technique. We didn't really have another end to put out there. I mean, who else were you going to really put out there? So we had to play him on the edge, and he just wasn't dynamic enough out there. The year before, and like when he was under Clark and even Brian Vincent, he was very good as more of that 3 tech, and then you can put him out on the outside in certain packages. We weren't able to utilize him like that out of necessity. Nakia Eason, we had to start him. Nakia Eason was a 3rd down specialist because of his size, right? And it just made it hard when you're going against these 330-pound tackles. You got this 225, 20-pound guy out there on 1st down trying to stop a power run. Come on, man, So, we had Desmond Little that was just transitioning, and we had, Kendall Johnson that was just transitioning as well. But now you add a experienced Emmanuel Waller out there with those guys. Trying to see, we added Ezra Odenjor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when I look at film and when I hear about people, they say how technically sound he's been, how he works his hand, and he's going to be a great addition out there on the edge. I think you can pop DeMarcus Smith out there some as well from inside outside. We're a lot deeper. Oh, Joker Gill is going to play out there some. Mm-hmm. We're a lot deeper, a lot more experienced. Maybe one of those freshmen to come in. Maybe I haven't heard anything. That's just me speculating, right? Like a Chris Burge or something like that. But all of that to say, and Eddie Toosom, linebacker, showed that he can play on the edge in his film as well. And I heard that it's chance in packages that he can be out there showcasing his pass rushing ability. When you add it up, I think the biggest thing that Jimmy said was Clark's first year when he came back, they only had 17 or 19 team sacks or something like that.
Yeah.
That is telling, because that's painting a picture to y'all that it takes time, right? Give it a little time. It's not going to be like that immediately the first year. It applied to Clark. It should apply to Trent Dilfer, who's in a much better conference with better competition. Let's keep everything in perspective. The schedule we had last year was brutal. It was nothing like what Coach Clark had. Coach Clark was great, but it was much different. So context applies here. So I do think the natural improvement, I think we should have way more sacks this time.
Hey, yeah, good point there, Darian. Before we switch position groups, just on Emmanuel Waller, that was one of my questions too, was just how big of a leap can Emmanuel Waller make in year 2? So he had 1 assisted tackle in 5 games played this past season. But just to give you some context here, Kendall Johnson was credited with 15 tackles. Michael Fairbanks had 23 in 2023. Let's set the line at 18.5. Do you think that Emmanuel Waller would exceed 18.5 tackles, or no, over under?
You said Fairbanks had 23?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he get more than 23.
Let's go.
30. Give him 30.
Did I set it too low?
Yeah, but you keep it where it's at because that's where it should be. But that's just me. That's just me,
Love it.
Yeah, and I was just really quick just to wrap up the edge. I really think this staff is high on Ezra Odenjor. Coming over. They mentioned Jimmy. At the 205 event, I believe they were mentioning him, if I recall correctly, him just the strength
He
and
was like one of the strongest guys on the team.
yes. So and we need that physicality this year, and just to help take that next step up for the defense compared to last year. But let's go ahead and transition, to those inside linebackers today. And, I think we all three agree that was kind of one of the biggest question marks, but for this heading into this season. Last year, we had some guys, but it just didn't work out for that linebacker role. But Darian, talk a little bit about what you expect, even being a leader, a Michael Moore, or what else what do you see out of these inside linebackers for this year?
Yeah, again, I'd stated this before, and I'm gonna come back to this. This was last year was Michael Moore's first time really playing since he's been injured back in JUCO. Like he didn't really play the year before that. He had been injured here at UAB. He was rehabbing a lot, and then when he first came in playing, he was playing edge. People forget about that too. He was playing edge. We were so down bad at linebacker. We was making moves, right? We dropped the safety down. We played it to linebacker. We moved the walk on, to start at linebacker. We had a previous walk on guy that was already starting at linebacker before he got hurt before the year. Like, think about what I'm saying here. So we was like, man, we got to do something. Michael Moore, you play linebacker. And he came in and he was probably like our best defensive player. Mind you, again, that was his first year being able to play that. So a lot of times we look back at it like, well, we have a returning starter, and he's going to be a senior. That was his first year playing linebacker, you guys. So he's going to be better. He has more experience playing the freaking position, right? So I think that makes sense, and he gets to come in injury free, just bam. And then we got a guy that's going to be better as well because he was a true freshman in Everett Rousseau. He was a true freshman. Those first couple of games was kind of rough for him. If you go back and look at the film, sometimes he was a little late behind. If it was a play action pass and he had coverage on the running back, he would be frozen a little bit, then try to hurry up, catch up. He had a lot of growing to do. Sometimes he would struggle with shedding blocks. He was a true freshman out there playing against these. Then as the season went on, kind of like Luke Jones, Russo started popping off more and more, just more dependable, way more aggressive. All of a sudden, you get that guy back again, bam. And then we add in OC Brothers, who I've heard now that I've heard the key with him is just making sure he's healthy, keeping him healthy. When he's been full go, and they've been able to keep him healthy, they said, oh, this dude, we honestly probably shouldn't even got him, is what I'm hearing. It's like we shouldn't even got him because he should be like at a P4, but because of his injuries, shoulder injuries, we were able to nab him. They said his strength, that's the thing that's popping off that word again, his strength, the way he shoot his hands, his aggressiveness, everything about him right there. So those three guys that'll probably rotate because sometimes with our starting guys, I don't know, it's 4-3, 3-4, 3-3-5, whatever. I don't know. A lot of times we only have two linebackers out there because we have a star. We have all these different packages. With these three linebackers, we'd be probably rotate them in and out, Those three are good. We know that for a fact. Trent talked about, okay, we need to fill in the depth behind it. It's probably our thinnest position that we have. But Tyler McNichols is a guy that has shined, true freshman. We have Eddie Tusom that came from JUCO. He was putting it all together. He's been improving week by week. They said he's a guy that we'll probably depend on. And, we got guys like Jackson Van Zant, who came over from Thompson, came over from North Texas. And then Jason Riles has been a guy that, he came on last year for North Texas. And we was like, man, the dude is out here making time. Who is this guy? Just out the blue. They just threw him out there. It was like, oh, we got the community service guy out here, right? But no, that service paid off because he made plays. He got his opportunity and he ran with it. And they said that he's still been doing that this year. So we're going to have to – there's still some revealing with the depth. that needed to be had, but we have those first 3 guys, and we can. And that's good. I'm good with that. That's so much improvement. Like I want the listeners to understand, like what we had last year. It was bad at linebacker. I'm not even gonna mince words. It was really bad. Go back and look at the film, and look at and see the gaps that weren't filled, or guys just getting ran over, getting the tackles broke, or didn't have the speed to make it there. It was bad. Now we can potentially take something that's bad to a strength, especially if we find that dip there. So I'm happy.
Hey, I want to go ahead, John.
Well, no, I was just gonna say real quick on what Darian just said. Guys were in position. They just got ran over. I mean, call a spade a spade. That's what happened last year. The coaches can only do so much. They can tell you you're supposed to be this place, this time, and a lot of the times last year they just got ran over. We weren't physical. I mean, is what it is. But Jimmy, you go ahead.
I was going to say, we talk a lot about Lee Beebe on the offensive show, and throughout the past 2 seasons, how he just, when he got in the field, he produced, and he's my favorite offensive player. On defense, felt a little bit of Lee Beebe with Jason Riles in that North Texas game now. Jason Riles, my favorite player on the defense. Let's go.
Let's go, baby.
I think he's going to be pretty good. And that's just my uneducated.
Did he change his number?
I don't know if he changed his number. I got him on here as number 27, but he might have changed it. So
he changed it because when didn't he get on the field last year? It's like 39 or something. We were
was something like that. Who is that?
Yeah, 39 out here, like 39. Then we made it a joke. Remember, like 39 just made the tackle.
That's right.
Over and over again.
About 6 tackles in, we was like, hey man, 39. 39 is decent, bro. What are we doing?
I love people that when they get their opportunity, they ball out. So I don't need to know anything else. I'm just excited to see if he's able to contribute more consistently this season. Would not be surprised to see him a staple in the special teams aspect of things. So, and I think, looking at here, he's still got a couple years of eligibility left. He's put on a little bit of weight since this past season, so he's put on like another 20, 25 pounds, which was needed. But yeah, it'd be cool to see if he can contribute. Now, a couple of things that Darian said, he called out like an OC Brothers. I mean, you said, Darian, that some people were like, should we have even gotten him? I mean, to me, the answer is no. Like, I mean, this guy, like what he was able to contribute in the Big Ten in 5 games played this past season, he had 19 tackles and 2 sacks. Then he got injured in 5 games played. The year before that, in 2022, in the Big Ten, he had 42 tackles and a sack in 11 games. I mean, this is a guy that's been playing at like some of the highest levels of college football. And we know, I think he started out at Auburn, went to Purdue, now he's back to Alabama. But yeah, if that guy can stay healthy, I mean, just unreal. I look at that inside linebacker group, and to me, it does appear top heavy. I'm concerned about even the loss of someone off the roster like a Charlie Good, who was injured this past season, who I think going into the year was a starter, if I remember right. And he was someone that had done well on special teams and earned his way into a contributing role. But even losing someone like that, is a little bit concerning just from a depth perspective. But last year we neither had depth and we were also not top heavy. So this year, when you look at it, you're like, hey, we are top heavy, then we're getting somewhere. So hopefully that group, out of all the groups that we're talking about, can stay healthy, because I think that they're going to be one of the most critical ones that you can't afford to lose, 1 or 2 of those top 3 guys, or you were just in a whole lot of mess.
Imagine like last year at one point, 2 of our starting backers were like Soros and Rousseau. So that'd be like having Tyler McNichols, and Riles, Jason Riles from last. It'll be like having them starting this year.
Yeah.
Think about that. You know what I'm saying? So now we're talking about all these guys in front of them, and then they can fill a role. When Bratton was the best was when he was with Clark, but that's when he was in a depth. He was in a position to where we can use him in the right packages, right?
Yeah.
Then we came this year and we had to depend on him to be a starter, and then we felt underwhelmed. I just think that it was kind of unfair to him, that we had to put him in that position, but we didn't have anybody else. When he was at his best, we had Noah Wilder and the transfer from Tyler Thomas
Yes.
Taylor. Yeah, one of them. But we had him, and then we had the other transfer from Georgia Southern, the other linebacker. So we had like 3 linebackers ahead of him, and then he filled a role. He did really well filling a role. But I just don't think that he was in position. Now we have 3 starting caliber linebackers, legit starting caliber linebackers. And now we have guys that we do have the opportunity. We have the season to say, okay, who's going to reveal themselves? Tyler McNichols, are you a freshman sensation? Are you big enough? Can you come in and fill this role? Jason Riles, are you the Lee BB of defense? Like Jimmy said, are you the guy? I'm gonna really be rooting for him too. Van Zant, did you just need the opportunity? He was coming off injuries from North Texas. Did you just need the opportunity, a fresh new start? And whoever else in that group, that want to come in and prove that they can play. Eddie Tewsom, how did I forget Tewsom right there? That's the guy that we were really pulling for. We were so excited.
Flipped him from Minnesota. That was gonna be the last thing I said. Was like, I'm so excited about Eddie Tewsom. I don't know, like it can be a pro and it can be a con. If I'm like, hey, he's hybrid, he's versatile. Like you can play him on the edge, play him, inside. Like I don't know if he knows or if the staff knows exactly where to fit him right now. That could be a pro. Like, hey, you can move him around. It can also, people get lost in the shuffle. So it's like he's got a redshirt year available. Like to me, it's like here during fall camp, can he find his stride? And can the coaching staff, like they did with a Smear, like they found where he excelled, you can get him on the field. If you can get this guy on the field with his size, what is he at, 6'5" or 6'4", 240? He had the talent. Yeah, exactly. Like he was highly productive at the JUCO level. Like he was someone that we were talking about. I don't remember. It must have been last summer, like early when we were talking about just recruiting, and then we lost him. And Jimmy never gave up hope. My guys here know. I was like, hey, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. Until I had all the expletives I dropped that morning when I was like, hey, we're going to get this guy. So I'm rooting for him hard. I'm kind of curious with Tyler McNichols, Eddie Tewsom, both have a redshirt year available. Can UAB afford to redshirt either of them? And if they can't, is UAB going to be able to find a way to utilize both of them successfully this season? That's going to really, and if that group can stay healthy, that's going to be a big deal for that linebacker group.
John, I remember when we looked at Tewsom's film, and one thing that we liked was like we saw the sacks and he was raw, he was long, but then we saw pass coverage. I was like, this dude can run, like he can run, he can do it all. He's versatile. Sometimes that's a guy that I'm gonna really be pulling for. I think that he can really help us if we can find a way to put it together like he did at the JUCO level.
100%. Blazer Victory Podcast is 100% behind Eddie Tewsom, and seeing him on the field wherever it may be this year. But we're definitely going to need him. But kind of transitioning from the linebackers over to the secondary. So let's talk about some cornerbacks, RDBs. And we talked about this on the Patreon when it happened, but how big was it to have Colby Dempsey come back and be a leader in this secondary? We lost DMAT. He's gone. He's gone to UCF. We were kind of freaking out during the offseason, our post-spring, summer, about this position. But honestly, with the guys that we from the portal that we added to the secondary, I think we're going to be all right. Darian, but let's start it out with Colby Dempsey. And how huge was that to have him announce that he's coming back to UAB?
And that was huge, especially in this context. If you think about it, we lost 2 starting cornerbacks to the portal, right? We lost 2 of them. And then we had guys like we lost some dip guys too, like AD Diamond. People forget about AD Diamond. Like I got to get the AD Diamond jersey, right?
Did he show out like in the spring game? Like whenever he got an opportunity, didn't he get like multiple interceptions?
Yeah, like he got it. Remember he got an interception in like 2 games too, like just like randomly, So we lost some depth at the corner position, but then we kind of felt underwhelmed by our defensive backfield last year because we were depending on. We was like, if it's one group on the defense that can really come through, it's going to be them because we had D-Mac, we had Dempsey, we had Swoops. So to me, I was like, shoot, we got them three, we got a chance. But after hearing those sack totals, and people, if you watch the game, you already knew it kind of makes sense. D-line and the corners, they work hand in hand, right? And you have to generate pressure in order for those guys to play make. Anybody can run around. I can run around, and Kobe Dempsey ain't gonna be able to hold me for 15 seconds, man. I'm just running around. All of a sudden, I'm just shake free, and then nobody's getting pressure. Nobody's wrapping up. A guy's gonna, Byron Brown or something. Somebody like that is gonna break free for a long play running the ball, or somebody's gonna just find somebody and LeJontay Wester is gonna score, and it's like it just happens. So when I think about it, and I see that we have a very much improved defensive line, getting Kobe Dempsey coming back, it means that much more because he was our best corner, last year, and losing him and D-Mac, we were like down bad over here. We was like, oh man, but just picking up the guys that we picked up. We got King Penguin, Troy Jackie back, right? And then we was able to get Tyreek Watson from Minnesota, getting the Donald Lee from the SWAC. Feel like I'm missing a corner. I know we got Tyjon Jones back at safety.
Did you say Tyreek Watson? Did you mention his name?
I said Watson. Yeah, getting Ricky Lee back. True freshman, you know what I'm saying? That he was one of the other true freshmen that really, really shined, that had to play corner, had to play safety, just had to play all these because we were trying to fill in these holes. And I'll get more to the safeties side of it, but I was just sticking to the corners. But just getting him back, getting Tyreek, getting Ricky Lee back, getting Donald Lee, all of a sudden we have legit depth just at corner, right? And we ain't even got to talk about safety right now. And that we had a crisis averted, and we probably turned the crisis into something really, really good here. I feel comfortable with our DBs, and I think in tandem with the improved D-line, we got something that will put them in position to where they can actually play make and get some turnovers for us.
100%. And Jimmy, you've done a great job with the YouTube shorts. Again, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel at Blazer Pod. But getting Troy Jakubek, our King Penguin, how excited were you, Jimmy? When that was officially announced and you called it. But how significant was that for UAB to land a Troy Jakubek from Youngstown?
Yeah, well, the person that got me excited about him right away was Darian. When Darian starts talking about, he turned on the film and he was like, what the hell? Like, this guy's legit. Like, I was like, because I think we were talking about like priority, like, hey, we have these people coming, like, which one would you prioritize? And Darian's like, I put, Jakubek. I think I heard him say Jakubek. So I'm going to go with Jakubek as it relates to pronouncing his name. We're going to find out, though. I don't know. But
and they used to have King Penguin on the back of that jersey.
Yeah, King Penguin is what we refer to. But yeah, I remember Darian talking about Jakubek and putting him at priority number one, and it made sense too. I mean, you look at the guy, his interest coming out of Youngstown State. He had offers from Iowa State and Kansas State, which was great. And then he has almost 110 career tackles, 7 picks, 31 pass deflections. Like, this guy, 4.5 TFLs. Like, he's just been all over the field. He had 4 picks last season alone. And I know it's at Youngstown State, but again, you've heard listen to what Darian said. Listen to what the coaching staff said. The coaching staff alluded to picking up someone that they thought was just as good as the departing D-Mac. So the significance is huge. And it would have been even more monumental if Colby Dempsey had not returned. Like, that would have been even more of a thing. But yeah, I think Jakubek's a day one starter. I think UAB is extremely lucky to have him. Don't know how much his recruitment played a role in also bringing a Tyjon Jones or vice versa, but that package deal was a big deal for UAB. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. He helps those moments we talk about. For me, I think Darian one time mentioned, like, I don't know if it was shower thoughts, but mine's the waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm like just like tossing around. I'm like, I'm not gonna be as concerned, about corner because we've got King Penguin back there holding down the realm or holding down the reins.
Well said. And let's go ahead and transition into the safety talk. You
Hey,
mentioned. Oh,
we forgot. I forgot about Trey Miles. He was a guy that was hurt. He was hurt. It's a lot of time here. He's finally healthy. And then we have Jalen Ferguson, who Trent was himself was very high on last year. As far as him having the tools and the speed, he's also coming back at corner. Those are two lengthy corners, and that they should be. Jalen's going to be a redshirt freshman, going to pack on some weight, and Trey's going to be healthy, and he's finally going to get a chance to provide some depth for this team. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't want to leave those guys.
Yeah.
We also brought in some true freshmen. That's going to be because we're deep at their position where we shouldn't need those true freshmen to play. So we should be. I think we're good to go at corner.
Yeah. Hey, and I don't know if you guys play EA college football. I don't know if you ever got a pick with Tyreek Watson, but you get a pick with Tyreek Watson, you're taking it to the house. You're taking it to the house.
Yeah,
I mean, that guy's speed is unbelievable. Yeah, but just to close out that story, or that position group, again, like Tyreek Watson from Minnesota, where he played in 13 games and had 10 tackles, again, in the Big Ten this past season. 110 career tackles from Troy Jacobek, bringing back a Colby Dempsey. Ricky Lee. We love Ricky Lee in this show, like all that Ricky Lee has done on the defense, to bring in another Lee from the SWAC that Darian had mentioned for depth, and is experienced, and has played quite a lot of games. Like, I feel really good, and I'm glad you mentioned Trey Miles, because if he had not been dealing with so many injuries, I think we would have seen more production from him. I think he's a Phoenix City native. I think he played at Phoenix City. He's someone that should definitely get in the mix this year.
well said. Yeah, thank you, Darian, for bringing the Trey Miles up. Well, let's transition to safeties. And you mentioned the Tajon Jones, coming from Youngstown State with Jackie Beck, also, but been hearing a lot of good things about Adrian Maddox, also from the SWAC, from Alabama State, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. Darian, are we good also at the safety position for this year?
Yeah, I think the big replacement at safety that we had last year was Star. So it was Swoops, right? Like, Swoops had been a really good player for us for a long time. He actually started the season off rough himself, just to a new scheme. It took about 4 or 5 games, and then all of a sudden he looked like the Swoops of old. I'm like, there we go. But just, side note, I never knew if it was Swoops or Swopes. If somebody could help me out there.
It's Swoops.
It is Swoops. Okay. So, yeah, he was a guy that, that Adrian Maddox, from what I'm seeing, is going to be replacing. And Adrian looks really good. He has the length. He has the experience. He has the pedigree. You got a guy coming from the SWAC as well. He had a lot of offers. We were able to nab him coming out. I remember during the spring game, I was able to sit there and talk to his dad. Dad was super cool. He was telling me all about his story. And how he got the UAB and how he loves it here, how his dad loves that he's here as well. They are like all in, and he just has the whole look, like everything. He has the production. He's been producing since he's been here. He seems comfortable. I'm good with that. When I hear about Sarai Bryant from Georgia Tech, that he's the hitter is what I'm hearing. Like, he's aggressive. He's going to be the guy you kind of want to bring up in the box. He's decent on coverage, but his specialty, we had a guy named Hiram Atwater when I played here. Hiram could knock anybody out. Hiram was probably 200, 205, but man, he was just, some dudes are just built different, and he was just, anybody from back in that time could tell you, they ask about Hiram Atwater, ask Matt McCants, he was knocking everybody out. Anything. I saw him knock out a 350-pound, 6'7" lineman from SMU that was running out on the screen, and he went head up with him, and then he knocked the dude down to his knees. I just remember the dude grabbing his chest. He said, "Good hit, 32. Good hit." And Hiram was just like, ugh. Like that's how he was. He was just like the Atlanta guy. And it's so funny because that's when I hear about Sarai Bryant, that's who I think of because I remember he's like an Atlanta guy as well. You know, well, I don't know if it's Atlanta, but I know he's from Georgia. And I just think about Hiram, how he knocked everything out. And so I'm thinking if Sarai Bryant could be anything like Hiram Atwater, who should have went to the league, it had a plenty story going on with him. If he can be anything like that, well, good luck to anybody on, any opposing offenses. So, then what I've been just enjoying hearing is the story of Chris Bracey. First of all, he changed his number. He's number 5. We talked about when guys get to change the numbers, they're like, number 5 is one of them numbers that people won't. Chris said, I'm 5 now. And he is the guy out there that's just making plays, man. Like, he has all the tools when you see him. You like, oh, man, this dude look like his body type remind you of Jalen Key. And we all knew what Jalen Key could do as a playmaker back at safety. That's kind of who he put you in the mind of, And if he can be like that, then we're good to go. And I know he's been a defensive playmaker. He's going to start at safety. He's a true sophomore. I think Bracey is gonna. He got offered by Vincent. That was one of the guys.
Hey, kudos to Vincent on that, Jim. I mean, Bracey had. I think I keep going back. I think Bracey committed like early July, going into Vincent's interim season, and he was committed. And then obviously the new staff came in and maintained his commitment. But his recruitment was not heavy coming out of school. Like that was a damn good find by Bryant Vincent. And great job to Trent Dilfer and stuff and evaluating him and saying he fits. He's one of our ODs and maintaining him because, man, he's got a hell of a career, upcoming at UAB.
And we got that guy. We got Tyjon Jones that came over. He's number 4, right? He's looking every bit of the part. We talked about Sarai Bryant, Adrian Maddox. We have AJ Brown, right? Is a guy that we haven't really brought up much on here, but when I look at the scrimmage pictures and I'm hearing stuff, I'm seeing 20 out there doing a lot of different things, right? I'm like, 20, I almost forgot about AJ Brown. He got hurt last year. He played for a little bit and was hurt. You really didn't see him no more in the rotation. I don't really know his story, but he's another guy out there at that safety position. And I'm just like, another position that was pretty weak for us last year, right? We had to play Bracey there. We had to move Ricky Lee there. Those are 2 true freshmen that we had to play back at safety. We had a guy that walked on in Ike Royal that had to hold down the starting safety spot. And honestly, kind of like the situation with Brand, he shouldn't have been put in that position. Like, he's a guy that should have played, but not nearly as much as he did play. No fault to him. All I did hear about was how he improved and everything, but I just don't think he was ready at that time because he was young and he was a sophomore, freshman, walk on.
Yeah, I think he was like a redshirt sophomore. Both of those guys, Bratton and Ike Rowell, are now at North Alabama. For those of you that are interested.
And I hope they go up there and shine because they are good quality young men first and foremost. But I do think they're good players in the right fit. Right, in the right roles, and I just don't think it just wasn't a good year for him at all, But now we bring in these guys, and we bring back those guys that I mentioned. There was those true freshmen that played safety, and it's like, another position that possibly is turning from a weakness to a strength. I think linebacker and safety on defense were our 2 weakest positions. And we talked about how weak our defensive line was, but I think our safety and linebacker position was even weaker. So we have done 180 on those. So I don't see how you cannot be excited. It's just going to be a natural improvement. I don't see how we don't improve. Add in Sione's second year at the helm of coming from high school as a defensive coordinator, going through the trials and tribulations that he went through, he's going to naturally just be better, just naturally. So I'm just excited.
Was was Gilstrap coaching safeties last year? Who was coaching safeties? So Gilstrap, that was one of the differences they did this offseason, right? They brought in C.J. Cox from Kent State.
Yep.
So they brought in an experienced guy to lead that position group, which, for all intents and purposes, seems like a good move on paper, bringing in an experienced guy for that position group. And that probably helped some. I know Kent State's in Ohio, right? And we got those Youngstown State guys. No, Cole Peterson, had some connections there. But, all this kind of ties together when you start connecting the dots. But with all that being said, did we mention Ray Thornton's name? Did we talk about him?
Oh,
so
sure.
No, I was
Ray
going to.
Thornton. Yeah, Ray Thornton's a guy. I think it was Zeno. I don't know if it was media. I don't know if it was from what you had released, John, or if it was somewhere else. But I think someone had asked Zeno a question about kind of, are there any guys that are kind of challenging you, like in the defensive side of the ball and whatever? And he had mentioned Ray, if I heard him right. Ray's going to be hopefully a really good story because of how late he came in. And that's something that we haven't really talked about today. One of the things that we talk about all these additions that we're making, some of which were here in the spring, but quite a few of them were not. And Trent's been very open and clear about just the statistics behind bringing in these guys late. And Ray Thornton was someone that was even later than early summer this past season. He didn't join the team until the fall. And man, from a playbook perspective and chemistry perspective, like that's got to be really tough. And I think that really kind of held him back a little bit this past year. But he's got a whole year and then some in the system. And it sounds like that Ray Thornton is ready to end his redshirt senior campaign at UAB with a bang. And again, this is someone that was, I think, at Clemson originally. And I forget the stats over here, but I'm pretty sure he was like playing special teams, like in the national championship game, like at Clemson, like he was on the field, like at the highest level of college football, and went to South Florida for one reason or another. Didn't work out, coaching changed, things happen, whatever. But I think that he's finally found his solid footing, and he's going to be, in my opinion, a significant part of that UAB secondary.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the other starter. So if I could predict starters, I would think at safety would be Bracey and Thornton, and I think the star would be Maddox. That's what I think we'll start there. I want to, and then you have Sarad Bryan and the rest of those guys, Tyjon Jones, and I'm missing somebody that I brought up already. But I know Ricky.
You brought up Brown, maybe Brown.
AJ Brown.
AJ Maddox, Brown. Maybe.
So I want y'all to think about this. That's 6 guys minus Ricky Lee who can play safety as well, who can play that safety star. But that's 6 guys. And also Thornton was injured. They talked about that, how he was injured and had a lot of knick-knack stuff coming in last year. He came in during like camp, and then he was already like starting. Like that shows you how bad we needed a safety. We needed a safety in the worst way, right? So, but now we just named out 6 guys that all has I forgot about Daniel Harris. He had them. He did make the transition from the edge to safety or whatever, but I think he's going to need another year to really, get all of that down packed. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye on. But I just named 6 guys that we know that are ready to contribute, right? Think about that in comparison to last year. In comparison to last year, we had 2 true freshmen that were playing a lot, sometimes starting a lot at safety. We moved Ricky Lee. But what else did we have at safety? Like, help me out there, guys. Like, we didn't. Yeah, thank you. So now I just named out 6 guys. Yeah, I know Ray Thornton played last year, but did he really? Like, that's like the whole Brendan Moran thing. You kind of bring a guy in late out of need because you need a body there. You bring somebody in, and it's like at this level. I mean, this ain't. You can do that in pickup basketball. Like, let me get big dude right there. You come on, you can run with us. Even then, you still got to figure out their game and how they play. We did that at a collegiate level because we needed a guy. So now I count him as a new guy. I count him as 6 guys compared to last year. I can't really tell you. And none of them are true freshmen. We had 2 true freshmen we had to depend on. Like, think about this. So I just want to paint the picture so y'all can truly understand.
Yeah, well said, Darian. Well, we'll transition over to special teams right now. And just to let y'all listeners know, the Blazer victory text thread was popping last night. And it wasn't about offense or defense. It was about special teams. And Jimmy, you were the one that started that popping and got us all three excited. Can you tell us that we might have found a kickoff guy? Jimmy Marion.
Woo. Yeah. I think that was maybe Monday night. I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just like, let me scroll this UAB roster for a second. I was preparing for this show, and I'm seeing on here number 38. Who is that? Noah Grant, senior. It's on here as punter / place kicker. 6'2", 205. I'm like, who is this guy? Memphis, Arkansas State. So I started looking into it, and yes, I think that UAB has found that answer. This answer that to a question that we've been asking ourselves since early last year is, can UAB kick the ball into the end zone? Can they do that? So a little information about Noah Grant. And by the way, I mean, I'm sending Darian, videos off X of like this dude just on a random high school football field, just kicking it probably on a Saturday morning. And Darian, I can just envision him at his house, just, excited as hell. We're just losing it. So anyways, yeah, Noah Grant, he's a grad transfer. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. Started his career out at Memphis. And here's what's going to excite everybody. As a true freshman and a true sophomore at Memphis, he appeared in 20 games. And he totaled 50 touchbacks.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Darren's passed out. Somebody CPR.
I'm overwhelmed with emotion right now. I don't know what to. Oh my God!
You used to pray for times like this. You used to pray for times like this.
Oh, God.
Didn't one of our listeners tell us on X that UAB had, what was it, like 27 touchbacks like all of last season? It was something like in the 20s.
Yeah,
we're talking about
Elliott, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about a guy who has 50 touchbacks there. And again, I think it was on Instagram, they had a video, I guess, like, how sometimes, I guess, the kickers, Darren knows this, like at practice, I guess they'll close out the practice or whatever. But I think it was Noah Grant that was kicking the field. So I don't know if he's going to be doing field goals and he's going to be doing kickoffs. I don't know if he's already won that position he came in. I think it was last year we had a true freshman, Jonah Delange, that was, assuming that role. So going back this whole conversation about how many true freshmen we've had, at positions, and then the staff going out and prioritizing a need and potentially filling that gap, this is certainly going to be that. And so for any of you that were kind of like, is UAB going to make a bowl game or not? Yeah, that's a guarantee now. You got Noah Grant on the roster? Bowl game.
38 special. The 38 right. Special himself, Noah Grant. This is, I don't care with nobody. This is one of the most exciting signings we've had in a long time. People like, oh man, these dudes, it got to be fake, right? Like, we talking about a kicker, a kickoff specialist. We don't even care about the field goals. I want y'all to understand, field goals, we can go for it, whatever. We can kick that thing off now. Like, what y'all talking about? Do y'all understand? And we was kicking the ball off to the 10 and the 15 a lot last year. All the dudes had to do was run 10 steps, and they was already at like the 30, 35. How many times did we start off at on defense and we was at the 40 at midfield, right? Now you telling me that teams, for the most part, are going to be starting off at the 25. If they try to run it out, they're going to start off at the 20, maybe, at the 15 or something. Can we back them up? Are we going to get that opportunity if they want to run it out of the end zone, that we can stop them and we can start our defense at the 11? We didn't have that opportunity. I started filling it in man, we going to start. Man, hopefully we can defend half the field because, they're going to get the ball at the 45, So, I mean, this was the most exciting signing, just based off immediate, what they're going to fill in. I don't think any other school has been so excited to get a kickoff specialist, but Noah Grant. Noah Grant, you are prayers answered. You know how people pray for kids, like, oh, my precious daughter. Shout out to my daughter Zuri. She turns 1 tomorrow. Shout out to Zuri. But it was like, oh, you're a prayer answer. She was born on my dad's birthday, who passed away in 2020, so that was special. Noah Grant, you're kind of like right there under my kids.
Yeah.
You're a prayer answer. I'm probably gonna end up getting a Noah Grant that first kickoff. If it goes through the end zone,
we're taking our shirts off for celebrate. Let's go, man. Hey,
I'm ready. Shed a tear, baby. Let's go.
Hey,
go, Noah Grant.
Let me tell you all this. Like, think about this though. Remember, he started off at Memphis. Why did he leave Memphis? We don't know, but probably I'm just trying to connect the dots here. I don't know if he got beat out or they moved in a different direction, but we don't like Memphis, and I bet you Noah Grant don't like Memphis. So John's going to be there in Memphis, and he's going to see Noah Grant kicking that ball, through the end zone, getting the touchbacks. But just to put, the cherry on top here is I bet you Noah Grant thinks Memphis can go to hell, and that makes him special to UAB fan base as well.
Let's go, man. We need to get the Noah Grant tattoo. This is a Noah Grant podcast.
This is a Noah Grant takeover, baby. 38 special.
Ooh, let's go, baby. Let's go. Well, obviously, let's go ahead and transition into the punter. I guess there's only one punter on the roster. Well, Noah Grant is a punter / place kicker, right? But Patrick Foley, from the transfer over from Arkansas, he's coming back. Hopefully we don't see a lot of the punter. That's kind of one of those positions, you want to have a good punter, and I think we do have a good punter, but you just don't want to see that guy out on the field. So shout out to Patrick Foley on punting. Do we want to talk about returners? We kind of talked about it before we recorded. And we really don't know concretely who our kickoff returners would be and punt returners. Obviously losing D-Mac. Because he returned some punts. But Darian, who would you say would be at least one guy out there returning kicks?
Yeah, like we speculated before, I think it'll be Cam Shanks and BJ Hawkins. Both guys showed their return acumen in high school and JUCO respectively, for BJ Hawkins JUCO. So I think both of those guys have the playmaking chops. They have the top end speed. I think that's who I project to be out there.
Jimmy, you got any other thoughts for special teams?
No, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Well, again, patreon.com/blazerpod. More content to come. Unfortunately, a few days ago, I was out there at the facility, but had some technical difficulties, and I didn't realize that until I came home. So wasn't able to put that on the Patreon, but hopefully we'll be able to put more content soon on the Patreon. Again, it's $5 a month, or you can join annually and save 10%. But free show next week, we'll have our BVP preseason award show. That's exciting. Again, guys, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/blazerpod. We've had great feedback so far. We're dropping a Twitter poll each day. We'll drop one tomorrow and again the next day. But thank you again for your feedback. But help repost it or retweet it and share it with your friends, other UAB fans. But on that note, guys, hey, season starts off 2 weeks from tomorrow. So August the 29th, the season will kick off. It is coming up really closely. Guys are looking to wrap up fall camp also after next week and get ready for game prep for Alcorn State. But Jimmy, do you want to go ahead and send us out until next time?
Blazer fans, have a great week. It's almost football season. Let's go.